Please describe your job and your school.
Okay, my job is the special ed director at Alpine Academy, where I manage all the students with an IEP, and I also teach some study skills classes and go over executive functioning issues. And our school is a specialized academic instruction school, also known as a residential treatment center. Some people call it a therapeutic boarding school. And so all of our students probably should be on an IEP or have an IEP that's current or have had an IEP. So, yeah.
And what drove you to want to be in the special education field?
So when I was in high school, I was actually going to be a legal secretary. That's what I wanted to do because I could type really fast and I liked the filing and the organization of all that, like bookkeeping. I loved all that stuff. And I have a sister, or I had a sister who had Down syndrome. She was 14 months younger than me. And she lived to be 34. And so I grew up a lot around special ed because she was going to special ed school all the time. And then just when I graduated, I went, no, I want to be a special ed teacher. And it also played into all of those secretarial type things too. So that worked out.
How have you collaborated with general education teachers to benefit your students?
Oh, that's a good one. I think it's much easier at Alpine because we are that residential treatment center and that's our whole milieu. So it's easy to collaborate with the therapists and with the family teachers, the residential staff, and amongst your teachers because we're pretty small with only 70 students total. But when I was in public ed, it made it a little more difficult and it was much harder to collaborate. When I was teaching in California, I taught science and English, and so I belonged to two departments that had about 10 to 15 teachers each department. And so that made it a little harder too. So I think that it's easier definitely on a smaller scale, and it just makes you be more creative on how you collaborate when you have more people that you have to collaborate with. But I think here at Alpine, we do it really easily because we usually eat lunch together and we're usually talking about the kids. So we all are kind of on the same page.
Okay, and what special education strategies and techniques have you used to help your students?
Oh, let's see. Well, we do a lot of, I think at Alpine, we do a lot of like system changes too, just to help the students, like we implemented a homeroom to help with that. Then we implement homework club. Then, we just really change whatever we need to when we see that students are not being successful. And I think that that's huge because being able to have that communication, I think, is the biggest thing to help make those changes happen so that the kid can be successful. Because since we're one step away from the hospital, we don't want them to continue to feel unsuccessful in school. That helps drive that loss of self-worth and that hopelessness and that, right? So I think we do a really good job of communicating so that we can be creative in whatever we need, whatever strategy we need to do for whatever student needs whatever strategy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We're pretty creative in what we do for each kid.
Another question, how have you managed to keep up with the paperwork required of a special education teacher?
Oh, it's pretty tense, but those definitely those secretarial skills that I liked so much, those come in are really handy. But I think that like having done it for 23 years, it definitely feels more natural and like automatic now than when I was first starting, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to remember this. Oh yeah, and there's this, and there's this. And it just, that consistency has helped make it easier too.
And how do you stay current with special education best practices?
A couple of things that I really like are the CEC, the Council for Exceptional Children. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but they have a really good website that has like current articles, current practices, current strategies, also current law cases, where things weren't managed right to help you not make those same mistakes. A lot of our students have ADD, ADHD, and so there's an ADD Attitude magazine that's online that I use a lot too. At one point, I was printing off strategies and putting them in teachers' boxes, but I kind of stopped doing that and might have to start doing it again because it's good. I like reading it, but I don't want to make people feel like, oh, one more thing I got to do.
So after having my interview with my mentor, I'm excited to be able to work with Donna. I've known her for a couple years, but I learned some new things in that interview about her. And I know that she has a strong background in special education. She has experience both in public school and also the private school where we work together. She works really hard, and I know that she does a lot to ensure that our students that their needs are met and that all teachers and staff are abiding by the accommodations that are part of our students' IEPs. Um, and I know that, so I've observed her class and I know a little bit about how she teaches, and I know that she is really good at her teaching strategies. And some of the ones that I prepared for my previous assignment were identifying similarities and differences. I mean, I've seen this as I've walked into her classroom. You can see posters on her board or on her wall, or things written on the whiteboard that shows me that that's a strategy that she uses often. She has students compare and contrast things a lot. Another one is summarizing note taking. She teaches a study skills class, and one of the things I know she covers is how to take good notes. And I know that she doesn't just tell them to copy what the teacher says or copy what the teacher has written on the board, but to also reword things and put it in their own terms, which is even more helpful than just writing what the teacher wrote. And then the third one I talked about was non-linguistic representations. Her class is very colorful. There's a lot of pictures. She's also a sign language instructor, so I know that she's really good at using her body to communicate rather than just her words. And so, like I said, I'm really excited to work with her because I think those three strategies are things that I can learn more about from her, as well as many others. And I know that there's other things that she has to teach me as well.